We know that small farms can feed a lot of people. I would just love to see that be prioritised and have an important place in our food system.
Welcome everybody to Dirty Linen. My name is Dani Valent and I am obsessed with food, having conversations around food, definitely eating food, but always learning about where our food comes from, how it gets to our plates, what people do with it to make it delicious. If you love what we do, please give us a review on whatever app you listen to Dirty Linen on. Give us 5 stars. We love those stars. Tell your friends. We have a wonderful community around this podcast, but we always love new listeners. Most people actually never listen to podcasts, so I see that as an amazing opportunity to build the family. We also put out a newsletter. Fortnightly is our aspiration, but can slip a little bit. But please sign up on our website, which is deepintheweeds.com.au, or at any of our socials. Dani Valent, Dirty Linen. Check out Deep in the Weeds as well, the founding podcast on the network, and our producers podcast, which I love as well. Now, I've actually had Dog Creek Growers, today's guests, sort of earmarked for a producers podcast for a while. Never got around to organising that, but I am super happy to have Chloe Sparks on the show. Chloe is part of Dog Creek Growers, which supplies beautiful veg to Lumen People, among other restaurants. So that means that Chloe is part of our Illuminating Lumen special series. This special series is, I suppose, inspired by the question, or inspired by the issue of the difficulty of running an independent restaurant, cafe, wine bar in 2025. Why is it so hard to make these businesses tick? Why is it so hard to run them in the ways that people really want to, displaying their values, looking after their communities, supporting people that they feel aligned with along every step of the supply chain? So we've had a couple of chats with Emma Sheehan, the co-owner of Lumen People. And today I want to bring in Chloe, who is a very important part of the Lumen family by supplying them. Long intro, but Chloe, welcome to Dirty Linen.
Thanks, Dani, and thanks for inviting me into this conversation.
Well, super important to me that all the people that are part of the Lumen ecosystem are part of this podcast special series. So you are definitely that. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Dog Creek Growers.
I'm Chloe. I've lived in the Yarra Ranges for the past 3 years with my husband, Jared, and we grow veggies, herbs and flowers on a small-scale market garden for restaurants and cafes in Melbourne.
And why is that important? Why do small farms matter?
Well, for us, the importance is kind of ever evolving. It kind of started as just wanting to be able to spend more time together and work together growing food. We were really inspired by other small farms in Melbourne, like Days Walk and Borrowed Ground in Maruya. We'd visited some other farms and we'd thought about growing food, and then this opportunity to live on Jared's family farm came up, and it was never really a long-term idea or plan, but now we are living here long-term and we're more established, and that importance has kind of evolved into being able to think more broadly about food systems and their impact, as well as how food connects people and communities. And places like Lumen really foster that kind of connection, as well as the importance of how food is grown. Like, that was always a big motivator for us. Just learning about soil health and the impact on ecosystems and people and animals, and yeah.
How did you start to become interested in this stuff? Like you mentioned Jared's family farm, but I mean, are you farmers from way back?
No, I grew up in an agricultural area on the southeast coast of New South Wales, but I was never really connected to farming directly. Both of my parents do really value like organically and locally grown food, and Jared's parents do as well. So we were always kind of backyard farming a little bit and understood the importance of local food.
And what do you're farming in a particular way on a small piece of land, with a lot of direct relationships with the people you supply to. Why are you doing that? Like, what do you perceive as some of the flaws of industrial farming and mainstream food distribution?
Well, yeah, when it comes to industrial mainstream farming, the purpose is basically to grow as much as possible for maximum profit. And so that's moving into a system where there are less farmers and, just big farms growing as much as possible. And so that means that they then rely on synthetic inputs like sprays, and that impacts soils, and there are lots of issues with like eroding soils and just basically doing whatever they have to fulfill their contracts. And often these contracts aren't even particularly honoured. So that kind of system that we rely on is actually really vulnerable. And I mean, we've seen that even just recently with the recalls that have happened with the leafy greens. I'm not sure if you saw that. I think it was just last week. A bunch of leafy greens that were grown in Victoria that were then travelled up to Queensland for packing and then distributed across a bunch of supermarkets across 5 different states, I think. And somewhere along the way there was contamination and they've had to be recalled. And it's really hard to trace where that contamination might have happened, or there's just so many processes and so many hands involved in that. And so I think it's actually a pretty vulnerable system. Whereas with us, we're part of every step of the process. We grow the seed, we grow the plant, we harvest the vegetable, and then we deliver it to the customer within 24 hours. So it's just so unlikely to happen to a small-scale farm.
And, I mean, you talk about large farms and that sort of mass scale, and it's profit-driven. Are you profit-driven? Like, how does the way that you farm stack up financially?
Yeah, it is tricky. We are definitely staying afloat now. It was more difficult at the start just because there's so much prep involved in starting any small business, I think. And then especially with a farm, you have to make beds and learn the context of your environment, and you're working with the natural environment that isn't always cooperative with you. And there's just a lot that goes into it.
So what does sustain you then, Chloe? Like, what makes you farm in a way that is perhaps less financially viable?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just it's meaningful to us. So we wouldn't be growing food in any other way. Like, that just wouldn't be a job for us. It wouldn't provide us with meaning. It wouldn't be motivating. It's not what we want to do. So we're now making enough to be comfortable, and that's enough for us.
And talk about, we're focusing on Lumen, but I know you can talk about any of the people you supply to. Tell me about some of these relationships, these connections, and why they give you meaning.
Yeah, the connections are really central to the business for us and to the work that we're doing. And I think that those connections are really important to a lot of people, and food is a big part of that for, culturally and for communities and for people. I think that that's something that like farmers markets bring for people as well, is just getting to engage with growers and engage with the community. And places like Lumen really foster that as well by having events that bring people together, maybe over something specific, or bringing chefs together, and just bringing people together to eat food together and tell stories. And that's really motivating for us, because we really value those connections. And so it's a really beautiful system where we're all kind of viewing each other as people outside of our work and outside of our profit, and being able to work meaningfully together.
Oh, that sounds so good, and so how things should be. Chloe, farming's not easy. You know, sometimes things don't grow the way you want. Sometimes they're impacted by pests or weather. Like, what sort of conversations might you have with Emma or Marici at Lumen People about something that's growing or you think is coming up, or perhaps something doesn't grow the way you want? Like, just, I guess, really bring us inside some of the conversations you have.
I mean, we try and be as consistent as we can with our product. So we try and let our customers know what's coming up in the season or what our crop plan looks like. Of course, that always changes. You can't always grow according to plan when there are so many unexpected things that happen in farming. But yeah, we just try and be really open about what we're growing, what we're expecting, and then they also let us know what they're planning to do with that food, what the menu might look like, and we're really inspired by the work that they do as well. And so yeah, we also just, like, because we are connected and those relationships are really strong, we can also be vulnerable with each other when we're having hard times. So there was a period last winter where Lumen were having a really tough time. It was just slower, and that's always really difficult. And we really try and support all of the small places that we work with by not having, like, minimum order amounts, for example, just because we know it's not always possible. And they support us too. Like, if we do have a crop failure, or if we have bugs that eat all of our capsicums or something, then they're really understanding with us as well. So it's just understanding each other's ebbs and flows and having conversations.
You know, you mentioned the capsicums, or, you know, whatever it might be. Sometimes there's such a focus on perfect looking produce in our society. Do you find that because of the relationships you've got, if something doesn't perhaps look a certain way, the kitchens will still bring their creativity to bear and find a way to use it because you've got those stronger connections?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it just, we just understand that things are always going to happen unexpectedly, or, you know, whatever. As long as we have each other's backs and we're communicating with each other and we're being real, those kinds of things are easy to overcome, and we're happy to support each other through them.
You've mentioned some of the challenges that you've got with, you know, consistency and unexpected events, Chloe, but what other challenges do you face as a small farm and business?
We face challenges every day, I reckon. It's pretty constant, but that's not always, like, a negative thing. It can actually be really fulfilling. Like, just being new farmers, we've only been doing this for 3 years, which in the scheme of farming is such a short amount of time. So just the challenges of learning what we're doing and learning how to work in a natural context that isn't always predictable, and letting go of the control that you sometimes try and have over things that you have no control over. And then also just the challenge of running a small business. That's all new to us as well, all the back end stuff and bookkeeping and all of that side of things. And then more broadly, there's the challenges of, the pressure to grow and profit fast, and being a small farm and sometimes slipping through the gaps for supports but we do it because we love it. So the challenges aren't something that would stop us.
I think, you know, you mentioned learning how to let go and accept that you can't control everything. I mean, I feel like so many of these farming and business lessons are very useful life lessons as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's changed my life, farming. I can't even pinpoint exactly how, but it's just, it's a really enriching way to live.
Can you think of any, I mean, without perhaps pinpointing it, can you just think about some of the ways it has changed your life?
I mean, it's made me think about food accessibility. It's made me think about how we used to grow food or how we might be able to grow food in the future. I just feel like I'm more connected to the world holistically and other people, and viewing food as something more than just like, I don't know, just viewing it as this completely amazing thing that you can grow from a seed and eat and share with people and tell stories about, and how culturally significant food is, and the really important role that it plays in everyday life.
Amazing. I mean, you've been a farmer for a few years. You obviously had a life before that and worked in different areas. I mean, how would you compare farming to the other kinds of work you've done?
I love it. I really love just being active every day and being outside. And I did have jobs that I really enjoyed before this as well. But there's something about working on a farm and growing food where just every little part of the process feels meaningful. Like even just yesterday, I was taking down the last of our cherry tomatoes from summer and just taking the pegs off the tomahawks and just being involved in like the life cycle. It just feels really inherently meaningful. Like I'm never restless or unsatisfied. I'm just motivated every day.
Wow, that just sounds so good.
But it's not easy. It's not all easy. I don't want to make it sound like that either. Like it is challenging and it is hard. But for me, I've just found what I love.
Yeah, no, certainly not minimising the difficulties, Chloe. Like I think you work really hard and you work in a system that doesn't necessarily make it as easy as it might for you to do what you do. Are there any changes that you would love to see made to support small farms such as yourselves?
Well, that's a really tricky question, and I definitely don't have the answers, but what I would love to see broadly is maybe a move toward a food system that actually feeds everybody and focuses on nutrient-dense food that we know we can produce. And we know that small farms can feed a lot of people. I would just love to see that be prioritised and have an important place in our food system. And then for just the general person, if you have the means to do so, supporting small farmers maybe at your local farmers market, or getting involved in urban farming projects in the city, or going to places like Lumen that do support small farms like us, because that's being part of an important food system, and by all supporting each other, we're strengthening that.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'm loving autumn. I've got my first chestnuts, my first mandarin, some new season apples. Like I am so into it. Like I also said goodbye to tomatoes and now I'm, moving on. What's growing on your farm at the moment, Chloe, and what's exciting you about the season?
I am really excited coming into winter, actually, and I haven't always felt like that, but I think just the longer we do this, the more exciting just every seasonal change becomes. It's a really transitional time in the garden at the moment between kind of the end of all the summer crops and the beginning of the winter crops. So we've got lots of young seedlings in the ground, and we're still planting the last of our winter crops while there's still warm days. And I'm just really excited to see all the veggies that we only get to see at this time of year, like all of the colourful radicchios, radishes, cabbages, puntarelle. I'm just excited for all of it. And I'm also excited to slow down a bit and have a little bit more time.
What will you do with your downtime?
God, I don't know. We always have a long list of jobs that we put off until winter, but realistically, I just want to spend time together, see more friends, go out to eat a bit more. Jared actually just built a very makeshift pizza oven out of bricks. So excited to just have more time to do more projects and just have fun. And yeah.
I love it. Chloe, so good to talk to you. I love eating your food when I see it around town. I think it's actually really lovely that that the restaurants that use your produce name check it on the menu, or perhaps servers will talk about it. I think everyone feels part of that story when they're in the family. And it's, I suppose, so much part of what we're trying to highlight on this Illuminating Lumen series is that a restaurant or a cafe is not just the people within the four walls at any one time, but it is definitely part of a broader, it's a part of a system. But when I think it feels more like a family and when those connections are personal, then I think the experience can be really enriched and deepened. Thank you for doing what you do so that you've enriched my experiences at places around town. And wishing you all the best for winter.
Totally agree with everything you just said, Dani, and thank you so much for chatting.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtyLinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This is a Deep in the Weeds production.